What's growing on, everybody? So today I'm going to do a video on growing avocados in Arizona, and the first part of it is going to focus on varieties that you would find at Home Depot. So everybody knows the grocery store. They know the Hass avocado. They know that occasionally you'll see those for sale at Home Depot and some of the other box stores. Now, everyone told me that they will die. They won't live here. It gets too cold. They're a cold sensitive avocado. Don't even try it. So I never had any intention whatsoever of buying one. However, a friend at work had one and they weren't happy with it. It wasn't growing very well, and so they asked me if I wanted it. So instead of buying it, I got one for free just to experiment with it. So I'm going to first start off the video with that avocado. So this is my pathetic little Hass avocado. This thing, the second I transplanted this from a pot into the ground, it died. It didn't die completely, but the top part died, and it died back, and really, I don't even want to call this living, because this thing is just, it seems like it's just surviving. I gave it no winter protection, got a little bit of frosted tips. The only sun protection it gets is because of where it's at next to my house. But as you can see, it does have new growth coming up in a few spots. So I haven't completely given up on it. So I wouldn't recommend the Hass avocado, but right now I'm just experimenting with it. So then I have two other varieties that I planted. So they're really, really close together. If you can tell, you can see their trunks, how far apart they are. This one right here is the Zutano avocado. And this one's been growing really well. Actually looks pretty good. I've got a lot of new growth. Even have some spots where it looks like flowers are coming in. It's doing really well. And then the one that's doing amazing, though, is my Stewart avocado. This thing has grown about 1.5 feet, and it's just, I've had to kind of contort its trunk because it wanted to grow like a bush, so I'm having to teach it to grow upward. So just to give you guys an idea on where they're at my house, don't mind the weeds and mint, it's still a work in progress. So you can see I have this kind of cove cut out where they definitely get 100% shade after afternoon, and then in the morning, even in the summer, it's a very filtered light coming through this acacia willow black to the house. So that's what's keeping it alive here during the summertime. So I'll show you my non-Home Depot variety that I have in the backyard next. Just hold on. Alright, so this is my not Home Depot variety of avocado. It's a Marcus pumpkin avocado. I planted it on March 28th, 2019. It is now March 31st, 2020. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, for the first year, this thing did absolutely nothing. Like, it actually looked like it was going to die. I didn't see much growth in it. I didn't see much of anything. All I saw was leaves that were starting to shrivel up and die, and they didn't look good. Basically all of this that you see, that happened in its first month or so being in the ground. But something kind of cool happened. So where I planted this sucker, I planted it under the shade of my orange tree and under the shade of my neighbor's big sissuo tree. And then to this side, there was just more coverage, and then tangelo. But what I did do, and I need to probably do it some more, is I did cut a big gap up here and let some sun in. I was a big adamant proponent of trying to grow avocados in full shade because I lost so many with some sun damage. But I opened this up towards the end in September, and then it gave it some light, and you guys can see there is new growth growing all over it. That's the biggest of my new growth, newer leaves there. But every single branch has giant amounts of growth, which I couldn't be more happy about, because this thing just sat forever. Now this was a bigger tree. This is a 15-gallon tree. I do recommend that if you're doing your research on avocados, make sure that you find one that's a little bit bigger in size. You're gonna do better. It's worth the extra investment to get one that's ready to go. Make sure that you've got good draining soil. From what I've read about avocados here in Arizona, is they do not like to get their feet wet. There's a guy on YouTube, Self-Sufficient Me, who lives in Australia, trying to grow these in clay soil, and he says every time the taproot hits a certain spot that the avocado dies. So I've heard several people in Arizona with the same claim, that once the taproot hits that clay, it starts to die. I don't know how true it is, but I didn't want to take a risk. So what I also did, you guys may or may not be able to tell from the video, I'll step back. So this is on the edge of my house, and it's on a slope. So I've got a grade going up, which helps with drainage. I also went ahead, and I'll see if I can find it and include in this video, where I dug about 4 feet deep, trying to make sure that this was the right spot. So when you're spending a lot of money on a plant, you don't necessarily want to just throw it in the ground and say good luck. So where this avocado is sitting on, I've had probably about 6 feet high worth of wood chips decompose. So I know that there's a lot of worms. I dug up tons of worms. The soil was mixed in, almost black, with worm castings and other material down almost that full 4 feet. So highly recommend that. I will say, just from my experience, probably include my planting video on this, but take what I say with a grain of salt, because when I made that one, I was under the impression that I'm just going to plant this in full shade and see how it goes. But I'm very adamant that they do need a little bit of sun, and once I poked a little bit through, this thing's doing great. You definitely don't want to just poke it in the middle of your yard with nothing protecting it, though. I'm not going to say that it can take full sun, because for the most part, I'm not ready to say that yet. There are some people who let it grow into the sun, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slowly hack back this orange tree. Its fruit is not that great for us. We don't really care for it. So as the avocado grows, I'm going to cut back this orange tree and hopefully let it grow into the sun. All right, so thanks. I'm going to include the other video now if I can find it, of me planting it. If not, have a good day. Hey everybody, what's going on? So I purchased a 15-gallon Marcus pumpkin avocado today, and I know it's March 29th. It's definitely not the best time of year to plant an avocado. I got a killer deal, and yesterday was my birthday, so I said screw it. I've always wanted a Marcus avocado. I am going to get it and plant it. So I'm going to go through my process and video document it. The important part, in my opinion, is more than your soil, more than any of your amendments. Basically, the most important thing I can think of with avocado, and I've killed a few, is you have to pick a good spot to plant it. And there's a lot of spots in my yard. Even my wife will tell you that there isn't any spots yet in my yard to plant an avocado tree. There are a lot of spots that I could pick, a lot of open spots that might look like they're an ideal spot for an avocado. I have planted avocados on my side yard that only got sun for about 4 hours during the day. and I had a 75% shade cloth for that avocado, and that avocado was a Lula avocado, and that avocado got burned so badly with only 4 hours of sun. It was actually in this spot, so I have a 2-story house next to me, 2-story house on this side. I had it exactly where this Phoenix mango is, right here. So you can see it's shaded completely right now. I had a shade cloth going from above to the other side of the wall, and it got 75% sun protection during that time of the day for those 4 hours, and the rest of the time there was zero sun, 100% shade during those other times of the day. It got burned up and died. It was not a happy avocado. So I'm finding my best luck with avocados. I've got 3 that made it through the summer and winter, is putting them in 100% shade. What I've had in the past are avocados, just Home Depot avocados that were 25 bucks. Not a lot invested into them to try to figure out the best spots. So today I'm going to plant mine in the best spot that I can think of. So I've been staking it out all winter, and I staked things out last summer just to see what I think the best spot's gonna be. So no matter where I have it, I'm gonna have it shaded very heavily. So I have an orange tree that has a pretty intense canopy. It's gonna block out a huge amount of the sun. But I've already kind of committed the space to some other trees. Down here, there's a Haas avocado seedling that I had. And over here is a bacon avocado. Doesn't look very good, but it's pushing out a ton of new growth. As you can see, the new growth down here, the top isn't too happy, but underneath it, it's got new growth, and it's flowering like crazy. So I think the new growth and the flowering is good, and I'm wondering if just this other leaf crumble and cracking is mainly from transplant shock, because this one has not been in the ground for very long, maybe 3 months. So it was early January I put this in the ground. So I do have it with some boards up to give it even more sun protection, even in the winter, because I'm crazy about sun protection. So I'm thinking my best spot, it's on a slight slope, so that'll help, because avocados do not like water to stay on their roots. I'm gonna plant it right here. Right here. So I'm gonna stand right where the avocado is gonna go, and I'm gonna look. Okay, so morning sun, there might be a tiny crack when it comes over the break of the wall, which I can always prevent with some shade cloth. And then looking up throughout the day, it starts to break slightly. I've never done this with my phone or camera. So you can see, and this side will get quite a bit of sun as it comes in, so I'll need to put up some kind of barrier. It's still gonna be filtered, but I'm still gonna put a barrier up even with that. So that was fun to watch, huh? Woo! It's like a roller coaster. Bet you everybody's not watching it. So I'm gonna start digging, and then we can look at the hole afterwards. Okay, so I'm back. I dug out my hole. I want to make sure that my hole is the right depth and wide enough. So what I did is I dug out my hole, and it's really dark and hard to see, but this is what my soil looks like. I know there's some chunks because some of the top soil fell in as I was moving it, but this is what 3 years of chip drop and buying thousands of worms and releasing them all throughout my yard. And I no longer do, I pulled them up. I had these worm towers that I made with my kids. Had a PVC pipe that we used to put compost in, and we just kept putting earthworms in them, and they were just randomly throughout my backyard down in the soil about this deep. I actually had one near this location, but this is the deepest hole I've dug in this area, and I'm really surprised at how awesome the soil is down there. I was really gonna put a great deal of mulch and compost and worm castings and other things, but I think I'm really going to limit that now. So one unfortunate thing about moving into a house that's been here for 10 years is you're not always familiar where your drip lines are, so I cut that one, and so I had to repair it, so that slowed down the process. The cool thing is you get some of these larger trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 15-gallon nursery pot. It's the same size as the nursery pot that I picked up, and put it in the ground. So if you look, it's slightly above the grade, which inside of our pot, the avocado sits slightly below it, but it's gonna sit just slightly higher than the top layer of soil, which is what I'm shooting for. So I'm gonna go cut out I'm gonna move the avocado over here, cut it out, add a few things to the soil. So things that I like to add some gypsum. It's worked out well for me. Helps break up the clay soil and helps with drainage, at least with the type of soil I have in my backyard. And I was really big into adding azomite, but I've got a couple reasons why I'm not going to bother with that today. I do have it for my raised bed gardens, and I have good results with it, but I was really lazy when I put the wood chips down, and you guys can see if you look right here at the layers. So this is where I didn't pull the rock out. So this thick layer right here was just the wood chips. That's 3 years worth of wood chips. That's probably a total of 12 feet tall of wood chips compacted over 3 years. Every year I put about 3 feet worth down. It sticks up, and then it goes down to a couple inches, and as you can see, the worms have really gone to town on it. So I don't do the azomite anymore because I feel like the rocks, as it waters, will ease those minerals down in. They may not be the exact minerals, but I still feel like I'm getting the minerals in there. Plus our native soil has a lot in them too, but it's just personal preference. Everyone can do what they want. That's just what I choose to do. I do notice a difference when I put in some mycorrhiza. So I've got a bag of mycorrhiza that I picked up. It's fresh, so I'll put that down. Also, before I dug this hole around this area, I'd already had a bunch of mushrooms because I put down some mushroom compost. So I like the mushroom compost because I think it helps with the mushrooms and the fungus that are good, that help break the soil down and help keep the soil alive. And even though I probably dug up a couple hundred earthworms when I dug this hole, I am going to put what's left of my bag. I got about a half bag, 10 pounds of worm castings that I'm going to put in here. Then I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to then just make sure that the trunk is, everything's protected and separated from the trunk, and I'm going to lay down combination of all of these leaves that have fallen throughout my yard from this big sisu tree behind me, and some wood chips that I have on my other side that are a little bit more fresh. So I'm gonna go put those amendments in and then grab the tree, put it in, and bury that sucker. All right, cool, thanks.